The Grow My Cleaning Company podcast helps owners of cleaning companies just like you to grow your company and yourself so you can make more money and finally get the time and money freedom that probably got you into this business. Discover how to automate and create systems that allow you to grow like crazy without losing control. If you dig the show and want to show some love, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. It really helps. Enjoy the show.
What's up, Cleaning Nation? Lindsay B here again with the fabulous Tracey Thompson coming at you. And it is December here. I'm cozy up in the hills, and Tracey is probably a little warm still in Las Vegas, I'm guessing. How's it down there?
It's actually nice here. It was 30 degrees this morning.
Oh, jeez. Well, it was 29 here, so I thought that was cold. I'm wearing a hat inside for goodness sake. No, I have hat hair, so if you're on the podcast, you don't get to see my hat hair that I'm hiding. But anyhow, enough about our hair and the weather. Today, we are actually, since it's the end of the year, I thought we'd kind of like regroup and focus on something for 2023. So we are going to cover the top 3 traps to avoid for businesses, for cleaning company owners in 2023. So the top 3 traps that you could fall into as a cleaning business owner that we're going to focus on avoiding today. So I'm going to jump right into it, and then I'm going to let Tracey just go because I know she has so much to say. So I'll introduce number 1. So the first thing we thought of, and we've hit on this on other podcasts, right, is avoid being in the owner-operator mode of thinking, that kind of mindset, which sounds kind of counterintuitive, Tracey. So take it away. What are we talking about here?
So obviously, when we launch our businesses, we start our businesses, we are squarely in the entrepreneurial launch operator mindset. And it's necessary when we first start because, you know, the motto of the entrepreneur, the motto of the owner operator is, if it's gonna be me, right? And that it's that hard work ethic, roll up your sleeves, do whatever it takes. And it's fantastic when you're first starting. The trap of it, though, is when you start to really grow, or you want to grow and get to a point where you can really scale your business, staying in the owner operator mindset, that launch mentality, actually becomes the trap. It becomes the detriment. And how does that manifest? Like, let's just talk real time. Like, what does that look like when you're still in the owner operator mind frame? It's you're involved in everything. You have your hands in all of it. You're out in the field. You're doing the hiring. You're running from an account to account. You're filling in for people if they call out. You're doing client attraction. You're doing all the sales. Sound familiar? Right? It's like, yeah, that's owner operator mind frame. And as long as you're the hub for everything in the business, as an operator, you are never going to be able to scale that. You're never going to be able to really grow beyond what you're personally capable of, how many hours you're willing to put into the business each week. So what's the alternative to, getting trapped inside the owner operator? It's moving from owner operator to shareholder. So what does that mean? If you think about it, a shareholder is somebody who obviously has a vested interest in the health and wellness of the business, for sure. But this person is more a designer, more of a director. In this position, in this mindset, you're more looking at the business as systems, as whole systems. You're looking at who is going to do what. You're going to designate people. You're going to create systems. You're going to oversee the culture and drive the culture of the business. That's a stakeholder mindset. So the stakeholder doesn't create jobs for him or herself. The stakeholder creates jobs for other people, and they delegate outcomes. That is a really big distinction. an operator, we've talked about this, Lindsay, like an owner operator, for example, thinks they're delegating. They think that they're delegating whole, outcomes, but they're really not. What they get stuck in, and Clean Nation, see if this rings true for you. You tell people what to do, right? You give them a checklist. You outline the whole thing, you get all the steps, and you give it to them, and then you wonder why they don't follow it. Or how come they can't just follow directions? It's because you delegated tasks, but you didn't delegate the thinking behind the tasks. Yeah, right?
Ooh, that is so good. That was deep.
That's true, because we are so conditioned to go, well, but if I don't tell them what to do, they'll just what? Not do anything.
Exactly.
That's because you've unintentionally, unconsciously probably, trained your people to not think for themselves. They're not really responsible for the outcome. They're only responsible for the tasks. And when that task is done, or let's say, they think it's done, but you come in and go, well, okay, you just sat there and you just stood there, you just left, you didn't do anything else. You get this syndrome of, I have a bunch of people who are kind of subpar robots. And until I reprogram them again, or again and again and again, unfortunately, they don't do anything because they're not thinking on their own. So a stakeholder is always going to delegate outcomes to their people. That's why we start shifting our thinking from how do I tell everyone what to do to how do I designate people and systems to implement these outcomes. And it's just a whole shift in the way you're thinking. So, Clean Nation, I want to give you a challenge right now and really think about your business and how many aspects of your business you're still very in. You're in it. If you went away for a month from your business, just totally like you climbed Mount Everest, you had no cell service or whatever, you're completely out of pocket. What would happen? Think about your business. What would happen in the business without you? And once you start going, ooh, this would fall apart, that would cease to exist, this would stop, that would have. Those are all the areas that right off the bat, like write it down. I mean, really be honest with yourself. If you want 2023 to be different, those are all the areas you need to start shifting your thinking from operator to stakeholder. And if you were to delegate those outcomes, what outcomes do you want in each one of those areas? It's a really big shift from just thinking about what needs to be done versus what outcomes you want in those areas. So that's number one.
Number one, and just to expand a little bit, like decide, because I always like examples for Cleaning Nation. I think it was either you or maybe Mike. Someone was saying, well, how does this apply? Like, how do I apply this? What does that look like? And I think one of you mentioned, instead of going in there and micromanaging, like you got to clean the toilets like this, you got to clean the counters like this, you got to do it like with this checklist. Think of the outcome of what you want that customer to feel like when they walk in. Like, what is that outcome? What is that like when they just walk in the door to the clean space that you've just done, and feeding you that to your employees instead of like this checklist. I just love that example. I think that's super useful for Cleaning Nation. Like,
for example, is your client surprised and delighted when they walk through the door? Are they walking in and going, wow, this is amazing. I feel like if it's a workspace, I feel like I can just do my job. Everybody here can just do their job in comfort. We don't have to think about anything. It just feels like ease. Like maybe that's the outcome you want to assign, right, to your teams. Like if our clients are coming in and they're feeling that way, then we're obviously doing our job. If they're coming in and they're saying, ew, this bathroom is still like, I've got to call, I've got to follow up, this isn't done right. there's still garbage there. There's, this hasn't been wiped down. There's still hair on the sink or whatever it is. Like that's not ease, flow, and delight, right?
Definitely not.
Right. So that's a great example of if you were to go to your team and say, hey, our client walked through the door and this was not their experience. The experience that I delegated to you, they didn't have that experience when they walked through the door. Here's what they experienced instead. What are you going to do differently next time to make sure they are delighted and feel ease and flow when they walk in?
Yeah.
Right. That's a good example of a different kind of conversation of going, okay, let's go over the checklist. Did this happen? Did that happen? It was like, what got missed? Well, we know that they complained about this, and this, and this made them unhappy. This made them frown, not smile.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and it's a simple example, but it really is not as complicated as, and that's why we feel like we have to micromanage because we're task delegating and not outcome delegating.
That's so good, Tracey. I got excited because I was like, I like how you asked a question in that frame. Like, what are you going to do? You empower and it's not just saying, hey, blaming it on someone else. It actually empowers the employee to think, right? So they can have these outcomes themselves. So I love that shift. Yes. I'm going to take us to number 2. Well, 2 and 3, we kind of have a theme that they kind of flow into each other. But number 2 is don't be in reaction mode. And so Tracey, what is reaction mode? What does that look like? Especially, I think you mentioned before the recording of employees, kind of feeding off of number 1's example.
Yeah. So being in reaction mode, all of us have experienced reaction mode, and let me just paint you a scenario. Here's a good example. You wake up, the schedule is set, you're staffed up, everything is ready to go. You wake up and you find your phone is blown up. Everybody's texting you saying, oh my gosh, this team, so-and-so got the flu and this person's sick and this person just ghosted us. We have 3 people out today. Now, the immediate reaction, it's in the word, it's in the actual what happens. Your reaction is to immediately jump to fix it mode. Oh, I have to get in there. I have to figure this out. Who do I call? How do I solve this? And you're in it immediately. And that reaction it's not proactive, it's reactive to whatever's happening at that moment. Now, whatever you had planned for the day is out the window, right? All your big brain owner stakeholder work that you had planned, gone. Why? Because you're in reaction mode trying to fix this problem that's suddenly cropped up. So being in reaction mode really by definition means that you are not planning anymore. You are not designing. You are not delegating. You are in it. You find yourself sucked back in. And so many of the owners we talk to before they come through the program and they learn how to do it differently say the same thing. Well, I will get out of cleaning, or I will get out of scheduling, or I will get out of and fill in the blank, whatever it is in the business. I will get out of that once, I'm fully staffed, or once I can finally find somebody who I can delegate this to or that. It's backwards. Here's the trap about it. Reaction mode will always pull you back in. It's a mindset. It's actually not a circumstance. As much as we think it's the circumstance, it's not. It's how we think about all of our business and our position in it first. So, for example, if you said, I am a stakeholder, I own this company, but I am not going out in the field. I don't do that. That's not what I do as owner, stakeholder. I don't do that. I have people for that. I delegate that. I delegate those outcomes. I make sure that I have good people that can do that. But I just for the sake of, this example, if you said, I don't do that, period, then you would immediately think of different solutions. You would have to. So I use this example a lot. What if you had a doctor who said, bed rest, you cannot leave the bed. Nope. And no stress and no high pressure situation. What would you do? You would have to find ways to think like the stakeholder and start delegating outcomes and thinking more strategically, planning ahead for when these things happen, not if they happen, because by the time they happen, it's too late. This is what I'm saying. If you wait until there are no longer crises happening to get out of reaction mode, you'll always be in reaction.
Because something's always going to happen, right? Like we don't want to admit that to ourselves, but any business, something always pops up. Stuff happens. We'll keep it G-rated. Stuff happens.
Exactly. So you cannot say, I will not be in reaction mode when these crises stop. No.
Nope.
Because they won't stop. You'll always have stuff happen. So you've got to shift this now. You've got to say to yourself, I will not go out into the field. That won't be. So we have a saying around here. It's like, if we have a plan B, it isn't going to be me. Like, your plan B can't be me. So tell yourself, just do this mind experiment right now. If you were forbidden, so somebody put a gun to your head and said, you will not be the one. You cannot go out into the field. You cannot fix this. What would you do? And I'm not saying when you're right in the middle of it, it's already too late. And, you didn't plan. But let's just say they said the next time it happens, you can't do that. So what are you going to do right now to make sure that when people call out, you aren't going to be the one? And think about how your mind shifts immediately. You go, wow, what could I do? How would that look if it wasn't me? And it's amazing, Lindsay, how fast just that one mind experiment can be in shifting from reactionary operator, right, owner operator, to shareholder who truly delegates, truly creates systems in the business.
You just nailed the word I was going to use. You need systems, which we've done 800 podcasts on, literally.
It's true. But the funny thing is the monkey mind is a funny thing. And it will say, oh, but if I just hire enough people, then I won't have this problem. But the fallacy in that is that you're still in reactionary mode when you're saying it. So as you're saying that, you're still reacting and freaking out about hiring. So you're not really doing all of the hiring things that you need to be doing the way that Mike has taught all of you in so many podcasts about the clean profit method, hiring method. You don't do those things because you're still reacting and you're still in that kind of freak out mode all the time. And so therein lies the irony. So how do you shift? Start with one thing, one area of the business. If you said, if I could just get ahead of this one thing, it would shift a lot of things in the business. I know from experience, one of them is staffing up, right? Having enough staff, hiring up, making sure that you have more than enough. And this is a mindset thing, people, believe it or not. Every time we say to people, how many floaters do you have? And they go, well, none. How many people do you have that are part-time, meaning 20 hours or less a week? Well, just one or two. Everybody else is full-time. So we start seeing this picture of, oh, that's a mindset. And why do I say that? Because if we drill down, like, well, but they need enough. They all said that they wouldn't work for me unless I gave them 40 hours a week. Right?
Yeah.
Right. But that's a belief. That's a mindset. That's a belief that's not true. But we make it true. And then we reinforce it by saying, see, they'll quit, they leave, they don't, whatever. And you're in this vicious cycle constantly of trying to hire full-time people, for example. You don't hire floaters. You don't have enough part-time people. So every time somebody calls out, it's like you have to have 2 or 3 people cover one person's work. Do you see how this is all part of that mindset, mind frame of constantly being in reactionary mode versus planning ahead? Planning ahead.
So number 3 kind of dovetails right in there on the other end of the spectrum. It's instead of reaction, it's still reactionary, but it's a little bit of panic, I would say, attached to it with getting clients. So say you do have success with your hiring funnel and follow the system that we've laid out several times before, then you get all these clients and then you're panicking again. How do we avoid the trap of panicking, Tracey?
And what that looks like in terms of getting clients. And we hear this a lot. We're like, okay, I'm finally staffed up for 2.5 seconds. I'm finally staffed up. Oh my gosh, I have to find enough work for my people and I got to have clients. And I got to get, and so we start, really getting into this anxiety mode around client attraction, getting clients, and suddenly that becomes the new crisis in the business. Is I don't have enough work. And the irony in that is not whether or not you need more business. We all need and want to grow our business. It's the energy behind it, where we're in that, oh, well, I'm going to lose my people, my good cleaners I just hired, if I don't give them, and a lot of this has to do with that whole full-time mentality, like, oh, I don't have enough business for them. As if you're obligated to all of those cleaners, because that's kind of the way you set it up when you hired them, is that you promised them that you were going to have this big, like 40-hour week available to them, instead of hiring a full staff of part-time people who don't expect that and having floaters involved, right? So it takes the pressure down several notches out of panic mode of I have to go out and get new business because I'm going to lose my cleaners. It's a shift from that to I'm fully staffed with core values matched people. I have floaters who understand that we're in a growth mode. And of course, acquiring new clients is important, but I'm not panicked about it. Everybody has the same understanding on the team about how we're going to grow. Then you take on good quality clients. You don't try to compete on price. You don't just take whatever person happens to be waving a contract at you. And you make better quality decisions about taking on new clients. And we see this a lot. If your cost of goods sold, your labor costs, right, COGS, we've all talked about this, is under 50% routinely, it's because you're not trying to, in a panicked mode, really shoot yourself in the foot in terms of your own cost of goods sold, your gross profit. You're not sacrificing that, or worse, just taking a pain in the butt client just because they're, waving their checkbook, right? So it's really the tide that raises all ships, being ahead of the curve, getting in front of instead of behind, in the reaction mode, in the panic mode, in the right, this whole feeling like, number one, it's all you. That's the first thing, getting out of the owner operator mode into shareholder, out of reaction mode into planning, and really in the proper dynamic with your people, that you're not there to serve them. I mean, let's face it, a lot of employers right now feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky that anybody wants to work for me.
Yeah.
That they bend over backwards trying to bend all the company rules just to keep them. And the same thing is true with clients.
Yep.
So this is all a shift, everyone. Clean Nation, it's a whole shift in the way that you see the whole business and your role in it. So they all tie together.
Oh, Tracey, this is so good. The overall theme too that I'm catching here is taking a step back and almost like just taking a breath before we go into 2023 and just kind of reassessing your whole mindset, like in identifying these areas where this might be more of a problem for you with panicking or, just feeling like you have to do everything yourself. So I love this theme going into 2023. So actually we are out of time today, Tracey. We just went in so deep on this one. Any closing thoughts before I get us out of here?
Absolutely. I was just going to say, I think what's important here, Lindsay, is a lot of the times the reason we get stuck in reaction mode or in owner operator in the thick of it all the time is because we're in a silo. We tend to be in that by ourselves. Even if you have a business partner, you're both in it together, right? And what we have found is when, for instance, when people come into our world, into our Clean Profit Method group, as an example, is that they're no longer alone. They're not trying to struggle through this by themselves, just eking it out and muscling it out. It's hard to see ourselves objectively. It's always going to be easier when you have great leadership, mentorship, a coach, a community that can help you see more clearly. And my encouragement is if you don't have somebody for yourself, if you don't have a coach or a mentor or somebody who can be objective from the outside looking in, that would be my number one goal for you in 2023 is find that, get that for yourself. If it's not us, have somebody who could be more objective, help you get that perspective.
Such good advice to close this out. Well, Cleaning Nation, if this all sounds good to you and you've been pondering jumping on a call with us for a long time, now is the time to do it. Going into 2023, or if you're listening to this in 2024, get on it. Now is always the time. So just go to growmycleaningcompany.com/talk, and that'll get you on a call with one of our fabulous coaches. And that is it for this episode. Tracey, thank you so much. And I'm Lindsay, and we'll catch you next time, Cleaning Nation. Adios.
Bye.
Well, here we are, the end of the podcast, and you made it. Great job. I've got a little bonus for you for sticking through with me, but like I mentioned before, if you got value out of this podcast and you want to show a little love, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever the heck you're listening to this thing. Share it with a friend, share the love. And as a special thank you for those of you that stuck with me to the end, how about I give you my personal phone number so we can text? It's a great way for me to get to know you, your business, your goals personally. So shoot me a text now, 602-932-6431. That's 602-932-6431. I am the only one who responds to these texts, and I will personally respond to everyone I possibly can as long as this number is manned. Don't know how long we're going to keep this at the end of the podcast, so grab it now, 602-932-6431. Give me a text, say hey, can't wait to meet you.